This is Dr. Ruben Chen, and welcome to the Vital Signs Podcast. Hello, hi, this is Dr. Ruben Chen. We are here on our Vital Signs Podcast. Welcome to our podcast. I have a very interesting guest here today. And before we get started, I want to do a shout out to our main supporter, which is Sunrider International. Sunrider, we are one of the largest herbal health food manufacturing companies in the world. We do all kinds of great herbal supplements, everything from protein powders that are full of herbs, along with good vegan protein, and even vegetarian and herbal toothpaste, and different types of detergents that are all based on clean, natural, botanical products. So we have all kinds of great products out there. You can check it out on our website at www.sunrider.com. You can also talk with your local independent business owner who will be happy to share with you their knowledge and love about the Sunrider products. Now, one of the things that Sunrider also does, because we're so fortunate to be a great, to be out here doing business, is that we love giving back to the community. And one of the things we have is a Giving Tuesday, where we want to go back and look at opportunities for Sunrider and to help support the community about different causes that we can give to. And so we've invited a guest on. Her name is Diana Bingham, and she has a connection with a group is called Engage Africa. Is that correct?
Engage Now Africa.
Engage Now Africa. And we should have gotten this recording when she was talking about these awesome stories about her experiences with Africa. But can you just sort of share what is Engage Now Africa, and how did you get started in it?
Okay, so Engage Now Africa is a nonprofit organization, and we focus on 4 main countries: Ethiopia, Ghana, Sierra Leone, and Namibia. I happen to only solely work in Ethiopia. And we started about 20 years in Ethiopia with the medical mission that went down to teach rural healthcare workers how to treat and actually administer medication and things to patients that were not high level of care. So I was asked by my sister Lynette Gay, who went to Ethiopia and did a site visit and realized that there was a great need there. And I'm an RN, registered nurse. At the time, I was working at UCLA in orthopedics trauma, and that was where I loved and was working. And she invited me to go and see for myself if I could help. So what we did was we organized, with the help of UCLA, we organized a program to train about 20 rural extension workers out in the Rift Valley, which is about 4.5 hours south of the capital city of Addis Ababa. It was out in the rural areas. There had never been a medical team, or a white person, if you will, had ever been out to these villages to train and to share. Our main mission was to educate and train the villagers how to take care of their families. And that's how it kind of came about. We started realizing that we really wanted to focus on strengthening families, strengthening communities. And that was our start. We started training about oral rehydration, sanitation, how to build a latrine, how to oral rehydrate your babies when they get sick, and how to identify when they were definitely sick and needed to go to a village health center. I found when I was there, though, so when we went down, let me back up. When we went down, the first time we went, we traveled with about 35 people, about 4 US doctors, 5 US nurses. And then we partnered alongside a local doctor and a couple local nurses, so they could help us identify some of the diseases and things we are going to be seeing that we don't normally see here in the United States.
How did you actually, so this was 20 years ago when you first got started. Was this something that UCLA got started for you, or were you the one that laid the groundwork, or was this your sister's brainchild? I mean, how did this get started down there?
Okay, so it was my sister. What happened was there was a gentleman that my sister knew that had adopted a few Ethiopian children from a village, Kursa
Oh.
Alala, which is right around where we were working. And he came to my sister because they had gone on an expedition to Kenya together, and or met up somehow through that expedition. And he said, I've got these children from Ethiopia, and we went to get them. I saw just the poverty and the great need in this village. Would you be interested in helping? So she got interested and said, let me do a site visit. Let me go over and see. So she traveled over with some people. They saw the need. Of course, 20 years ago, even now, you'd see the poverty is just, you can imagine it's third world country, there's no transportation, there's nothing. So they live off the land, they're farmers and hand to mouth, basically. And so she said, I think we can make a difference here. We started out really slowly. And that's when she contacted me as a nurse and said, would you like to come over and help train, educate, just one village at a time. So that's just I kind of received a notebook on some topics and things I could go over that I felt were most important. And I felt sanitation, basic maternal care was where we wanted to start. So that's what we did. And no, UCLA really had nothing to do with it. I was just working there, and they provided some instruments for me to take over for the village healthcare extension workers, like stethoscopes, thermometers, basic medical needs. And we carried those over in duffels. And all of us traveled about, it took about 8 hours to get to where we were by bus. We camped. We pitched our tents. We had a triage tent. We had a treatment tent. And then we had a tent for patients to stay to, if there was any illnesses that we could do to treat them. So there's a treatment tent as well. So we camped, 35 of us camped for about 8 days and cooked our own meals and just lived not off the land. We brought our own food, but we didn't have any hygiene facilities. As you can imagine, we dug our own latrines and things like that. So that's what we did. And I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. I wasn't prepared mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I wasn't prepared for what I was going to see. The poverty was so devastating that it just got in my blood. I saw the need, and we started doing these expeditions twice a year. So we did that for about 10 years.
So you've been going twice a year for the last 20 years, is that right?
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah. I just got back 2 weeks ago. So yeah, I go over twice a year. Yeah. So basically to see the project that you have donated for it, I wanted to catch up on all our projects. So basically it started out with those expeditions, but then I realized that, there was poverty there. There's poverty everywhere. Yeah. But I really felt like the poverty needs more than one solution. You can dig a well and now it's got clean water. You can, build a school and the kids are now educated, but there really needs to be a multi-dimensional process to go through to really reach, to help really make a difference. And so I kind of took a holistic approach on this. But after 3 years, we decided to expand. And so they expanded into Ghana because basically my sister and her husband were called through a church assignment with their church to serve there in Ghana. So that took them to Ghana for a few years. I remained in Ethiopia and just started working on projects there, basically expeditions, and then started getting to the education side of things, building small primary schools for the children out in the villages. There were no schools, there was no health centers, there was no wells, there was nothing. So I thought, we started slow. We built a slow foundation of education and then the health posts. We started building health posts, and these rural health posts were great because it allowed the children to be immunized, receive basic care. Moms could come in and weigh their babies. The nice thing about Ethiopia is that we have to sign a contract. Anytime we do a project, the government is involved, and then they hire employees to work at the structures of the buildings we build. So we don't just build a building and leave it vacant. The government then promises to either donate the land or they hire the employees.
So you're working directly with local people there to help it. So when you leave, it's not just 6 months, every 6 months people receive healthcare and then nothing. You try and leave some kind of structural organization that can continue until you come back, right?
Right. Yeah. It's hard to set up because the government there's tricky and there's a lot of politics, but it takes time. So we have a 5-year contract, and basically the government, we work with the government and you say, we want to, what is the need? We don't go in and say, this village, you need to have this, you need to have that. We let the village elders come to us and the communities come to us and say, we could really use a health post. We don't have anything within 25 miles. Our children don't have a school. We don't have clean water. What do you need? So we use the ABCD method, which is the asset-based development community, which means the community and the village elders all come together along with us as a team, and then they provide whatever they can for that project. And it just might mean moving rocks. It might mean shoveling a pathway for the trucks to get in to build the health center or to build the maternal center. Whatever they can do, they contribute. And so that's kind of where we started. And it's just built upon that. It's just built upon the needs of the people, us coming together and them telling us what their people need. And we've been doing it now for 20 years, and we're making a huge impact in the area we're at in Ethiopia. We're making a huge impact in all the countries we're working in. So for example, in Ghana, they have a very robust literacy program where the mothers are going and learning literacy. And from there, they're creating jobs and making a difference that way. And in Sierra Leone, we help with an amputee camp there from the amputees that were injured during the Civil War a number of years ago, and help them with some clean water. We have a very lively maternal center there in Sierra Leone for maternal needs there. So all of our projects work hand in hand. And that's kind of where the Heal, Rescue, Lift came in, because basically, if you look at HEAL, it's going to be health posts, health centers, maternal centers. The rescue, we have a very lively anti-trafficking prevention program in Ethiopia and Ghana.
Anti-human trafficking, right?
Yes, it's prevention for human trafficking. Yes, so we go in and in actually Ghana, we do some rescues.
Really?
And do some rescues and some rehabilitations. And in Ethiopia, we actually do prevention where we go out into villages and reach probably about 1 million people and sensitization on what a trafficker looks like, how you can identify a trafficker, how you can prevent a trafficker. And that's done through the high schools. And so the high school students come together and they put on dramas and shows, and we have lots of literature that goes out to the villagers because they really don't know what it looks like to be trafficked and things like that. So that's going on. And you being a doctor, you've loved this. We have a cataract program in Ethiopia as well. So we have, that would be under our HEAL. So we do about 500 cataracts a year.
500?
About 500, yeah. We're up to 330 this year so far, and we'll have another 150 by the end of the year. So yeah,
that's amazing.
So, yeah, but the maternal centers are that you've donated for are just life-changing. So I'll share a story how that came about. So 20 years ago, when we were doing these expeditions, we don't do them anymore, the medical ones. We have done some school ones. We don't do them anymore just because of, to be honest with you, too busy. We're too busy doing projects. We're too busy because to plan an expedition with the 20, 30 people I would bring over, it's a 6-month planning with flights and hotels and projects. So it took about 10 years ago, I whittled it down to just doing some schools. When I started doing these medical expeditions, moms would come in on their donkeys, ready to deliver their babies to us.
Oh my gosh, really?
And yeah, so we would be delivering babies during this expedition time. And the mothers would tell us that they just have these babies in their homes, and they might have a midwife that comes and attend. Otherwise, it's just a neighbor, a woman that would go in and help deliver the baby, and they were on their own. They're on their own, no medication, no nothing. And one woman came to me and said, actually brought in her newborn, and the newborn was stressed. The newborn was really dehydrated. So we, gave oral rehydration to the baby, and we were able to get the baby some medication. So when I went to the house to visit this mom and see how the baby was doing, outside her house, she had 6 little grave markers where 6 babies had died prior to this infant. And so
these were her children that had died?
These babies had died right after birth.
Oh my
Which
goodness.
tells me she had a strep infection. As a nurse, I knew that, during the delivery process, the strep obviously got to this baby, or other ailments or whatever. So the treatment that we were able to give this child during expedition time, not only medication, an injection, oral rehydration, we were able to save this baby, but she had not received any treatment for these 6 prior babies that had passed away.
Oh.
So I just saw right then and there mothers coming in on their donkeys, on horse carts to deliver. I thought, this is just wrong. This is just wrong. This is 2010, 2011. This is, we're in the 21st century. These women should have some kind of care and help. So that's what got us started on the health post. So mothers could come in and receive care at the health post. We've taken it up one notch this last few years to actually build maternal health centers, because these women, they'll be in labor. They might not make it to the health post. They might not make it to the health center. So they're still delivering their babies at home. Then you have the issue with the fistulas, where women labor and labor and labor, and they develop a fistula. And they've got this fistula that they live with for life, which means that's actually a hole in their bowel. And that becomes a whole nother problem. So I just felt like these women need to have a good, healthy sanitation place to deliver their babies. So that's what came about. So we have these maternal centers. The women can come right around the time they're delivering, a few days before the delivery date, and they can stay there. Sometimes they stay up to a week or two due to a false labor or whatever. They stay until they deliver their baby. They deliver their baby in a place that's clean, sanitized. A qualified nurse, doctor, healthcare worker delivers the baby, and then they can recover at these places until they're ready to return home. So they might be there for up to a month sometimes, depending on how far they've come. At your particular, the Wanbur Maternal Center, there's going to be women that are going to be coming from like 10 miles away.
Yeah, so to let people know, so Sunrider, in cooperation with Engage Africa, in our last convention, we took some money from every ticket that that was purchased and donated, I think, over $30,000 to help us create this maternal center, which is amazing. For those of you who don't know, and I know that there's this sense that people want to have children naturally, which is very popular, but even if you don't have a midwife, you don't have any assistance, child death can be as high as, in some of these villages, as high as 50%. Like 50% of the children are dying after birth, which is insane. Even with a midwife, it gets down to about 15%. But in places that have some medical care, it can drop down to 3%. So this is a major thing, to be able to provide care for something that to us, I guess, in more developed nations seems very rudimentary and normal and regular, but in these countries, this literally can change an entire generation. So this is one of the things that we're really passionate about. At least for me, I'm a medical doctor. It's something that I'm emotionally invested in. So.
Right. Well, even in the United States, if a woman goes into labor, she can call an ambulance, she can call a police officer. I mean, babies are born in, cars sometimes, but they then receive some medical care, right? They're watched, and, these women are all by themselves in a dark hut, in the middle of the night, or all by themselves. It's just not fair that they have to be all by themselves to deliver their babies. So it just brings it makes me so happy and brings so much love to these women, to share with them what we can do, how we can help them, and how Sunrider is helping build this center is wonderful. It's fabulous. It's fabulous.
Wow. So tell me a little bit about, excuse me, how did you get so passionate about Ethiopia in general? I mean, what was it? Was it just going down there, or is there something about Ethiopia itself?
I think, well, I know the people you serve, the more you get to love them, right? The more you get to know your people. I think I absolutely love these people mainly because they're the most kind. They are so kind, so gentle, so humble. You know, they weren't colonized, and so they don't have a lot of other issues that some other countries do have after being colonized. So they love people. They love anything you can offer them. They're very humble people. They're very quiet people. They're very shy people. So when you approach them, they don't smile. But once you smile, you get the biggest smile back. They're the most genuine, kind, loving people that I've ever met. So yeah, I love their culture. They're highly religious people. They often go to church 3 times a week. Their God is very important to them, and they live very Christ-like and very loving. So that kind of appealed to me. I love that aspect about them, and just their great willingness to help. They want to be involved. They want to help. And they're really smart people. They're so ingenious. They have gotten along without a lot of help from hundreds of years, you know, and they've survived. And just their hard work. I was just there recently at a woman's home that had just had a baby, and I visited her, and she had a sticker on her door. And I said, what does that stand for? What does that say? And it says, I'll never give up. You know, they just have this hard drive about them. That's just they're hardworking and just wonderful people. So.
Wow, that's super inspiring.
Yeah, they're wonderful people, just wonderful people.
So when you go down with these groups of doctors and nurses, how do you bring these people? Are these your colleagues? Are these the same people every year, or are these? Do you ask new people? I mean, how do you get these groups of people to go with you?
Actually, I don't do the medical expeditions anymore, and I stopped doing expeditions completely about 2 years ago. Not that I won't do them again, but basically word of mouth. So when I was working at UCLA, I stopped working at UCLA about 5 years ago. And I've moved to Utah since, just because our organization is here and it was a lot of traveling back and forth. So I moved to Utah, but basically it was word of mouth. So there were a couple of doctors at UCLA that said, hey, I hear you're going to Ethiopia. I'd like to go and help out. And I would warn them, like, okay, you're going to be, well, eventually we got into hotels. So eventually we moved a little bit, but for the first 7 years we camped. So I said, you know, you're going to be camping. We're going to be cooking our own food, and you're not going to have any hygiene facilities. And it was okay. People did fine. It's amazing what you can do. You know, it was hard. I'm not saying it was easy. It was hard. It was tiring. I remember being there on Christmas Eve. I brought my kids with me, and it was Christmas Eve, and it was probably about 10 o'clock at night. We just finished up working in the tents and everything. We sat around a campfire, and I said, you guys, it's Christmas Eve. And we're like, oh my goodness, we forgot, you know? And so we kind of celebrated a little bit with Christmas Eve and had hot chocolate, went to bed and started working the next day, because their Christmas is in January. So it wasn't Christmas for them, but it was Christmas for us. So we used to go at Christmas time, and people would bring their kids, teenagers, basically word of mouth. Word of mouth got around. So yeah, nurses at work would come, or, you know, my colleagues at work would come with me and invite friends that were interested. And there was just trainings that go on before we go down. I mean, there's trainings that would go down. We have manuals that we have that, you know, we would train people and, you know, let them know what they're in for and what they will be doing. They just don't go down, you know, without any information. So they're well educated before they go. So
it sounds like all kinds of people though are going down there to help. And is it just medical people? Are you inviting all kinds of educators or whoever can go down and help, or is it, you know, or is it basically, I guess, sounds like by the need of every location, right?
Right. So we're heavily involved in education as well. So we've built about 25 primary schools, and we're in the middle of building a high school right now.
Wow.
The first high school in the area. So yeah, and we've built about 30 health posts, like just rural health posts that do immunizations and well baby checkup and basic things like that. And then your maternal center is our third one. So we're just trying to fill that gap. We're trying to fill that gap where things are needed. So the last expeditions I did were to finish a primary school and do teaching in the school. So being that it was in the summertime, we always went end of May because rainy season starts in June and lasts until September. And that's when they get they've got a couple rainy seasons, but that's their main one. So June, July, August, 1st of September, it's just raining. Hard to get to the villages because it's muddy roads. So we would just work on one of our schools, primary schools, and we would teach out of them. We would paint the school, finish up with desks, and then we would teach, do a lot of teaching and cultural exchange and giving people the opportunity to work side by side with the villagers and learn from them learn from us, mainly a culture exchange. But so now, I mean, as far as going down to help out, what we could do with people is go down and work at our maternal centers and help deliver babies, help maybe teach neonatal resuscitation. That's something that could be taught in the maternal centers, things like that. Teaching nurses and doctors American ways that we do things and having them share their ways that they do things. It's always nice to learn from each other. So those are things that we've done in the past as well.
So what are the kind
anybody can come, anybody can go.
Anybody can come.
I've got lots of college students.
Right now I'm thinking about bringing my kids over there because that sounds like a great opportunity for them. But
I would say 12 and above though, 12 and above.
12 and above. I agree with that.
I took a 12-year-old, she was 12 and I took her. It was hard for her. She wasn't prepared. You know, you can't prepare somebody. It's like preparing somebody to deliver a baby. How do you prepare somebody what it's like to deliver a baby? You can't, everybody's experience is different and you can't explain it. You just have to go through it, you know? So it's kind of the same thing. I can't prepare. I can do my best, but.
What do you mean by that? Like what is it just the poverty and the difficulty in the area to prepare for?
The level of poverty is pretty severe. It's getting, and what I mean by that is, you know, you can kind of measure a society when they're elevating themselves, how they treat their animals. I know that sounds really strange, but when they don't view their animals as being part of their life or important to them, then that's a problem because they're not identifying that. But now I've seen them feeding their dogs, not tying up their donkey's legs, treating their horses better, and becoming aware that animals are important. If they didn't have a donkey in Ethiopia, they would not survive. Their donkeys haul their water, their donkeys haul their goods to market back and forth. So just things like that. I've seen a great improvement over the years of that. I've seen a great improvement over the years about how they treat their children. That was a little bit hard too, because 20 years ago, they still kind of beat their kids a little bit. They would take a stick, and it wasn't uncommon for them to see the village elder kind of whack the children around. That was hard for people to see. The culture, they're very loving people, but they're strict people. Their children obey their parents and respect their parents. And so if they stepped out of line, it wasn't uncommon for moms to maybe use the upper hand with them. So that was hard. Just the poverty itself, just the poverty, the lack of facilities. I mean, they don't have anything. So they grow their own food, eat their own food. And that's how they survive.
When you talk with the young people after educating them, what are their desires after, you know, you come and see them? Are they motivated to go to a city or get even more education? I mean, what are some of the motivations for the young people there?
So out in the rural villages where we were, since we were so far from the capital city or from Debrecen, we work about 30 kilometers south of Addis Ababa. We're no longer that far. So it's about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour to get to where we are. And our villages, the projects are anywhere from 20 kilometers to 30 kilometers from where our office is. So our projects are very rural, no paved roads, are all dirt roads, rock roads, dirt roads. So down where we were, they probably have take that back. If they go to school and can finish school and their parents don't need them on the farm, then they will venture out to the city. They will venture out to the closest town and look for work there. And then from there, if they do well, they can go on to high school. I have seen several kids over the years start in our primary school, then go on to educate, and then go on to college. It's difficult, and the main thing is the parents need them on the farm. But the kids in the school, it's important for them to go so then to learn how to read and write, because I come across adults all the time that don't even know how to recognize their name in their own language. They just still mark an X for their signature.
Really?
So
Wow.
use a thumbprint, yeah.
So this is subsistence farming. They're just barely farming just to make nourishing ends meet. So.
Right, it's just hand to mouth. And that's why if there's too much rain or not enough rain, that's where it gets to be a problem. So you just pray for a good rainy season, So yeah, they are subsidiary farmers, and that's how they survive, and that's how they live. But they really want their children to go to school. They want a better life for their children. So once you've introduced good health care and education, now they can take care of their families, it does go up to the next level.
Wow.
So now that there's health posts there and they receive care, it's just it's very enlightening to them. So that's what we're all about, is education, enlightening them and bringing them to a next level.
So how can the average person help Engage Now Africa?
I have lots of people ask me that all the time. Like, what can I do? What can I do? And, there's like this last time I went over, it sounds really silly, but there were some women that wanted to do something. Diana, what can you do? Well, this time I went over, it was just my husband and I. So you're limited on luggage, and I had laptops to bring over. I had some supplies to bring over. So I didn't have a lot of luggage space, but they wanted to do something. So they made some sewing kits, which means just little sewing kits for the moms, because we have a very active microcredit program of 300 women in a microcredit program. So we brought them sewing kits when we did our site visits on their businesses, how their businesses are going, so we did that. But this out just fine to make a donation, to a project, to donate, basically. Find a project that you're passionate about, whether it's education or health or trafficking or one of those things, and pledge a dollar amount for that project, and then we can follow up and keep them updated on it.
Oh, so there are specific projects. So people don't just donate to Engage Now Africa; they can actually donate to a project that they feel it touches their heart, and they want that money just to go to that project.
Yeah, so that would be considered a restricted fund. And so that, like, your funds were restricted to the Wanber Maternal Health Center, right? You can make a donation just to the organization, so it's not restricted. And then say you'd like it to be in health, or you'd like it to be in education, and then we can place the funds in that education department, whether it's a school or something, and then we can let them know where the funding went. They can track it that way. There's a couple ways of doing it. So.
And what if somebody wants to go on one of these trips or these missionary activities? How do they get involved in that? Okay,
so like I said before, I'm not really doing them right now, but in the spring or next year, in Ethiopia right now, they have a civil war going on up north. I don't know if any of you have known that. There's a civil war going on. It doesn't affect us. It doesn't affect where we work. It's about 12 hours north. Up in their Richfield region. It's just a tribal thing that's going on between land and a couple of tribes. And I think things will be resolved, but right now it's tricky to get into the country visa-wise, but that will slow down. Once that slows down and we're kind of get back to normal with COVID, and we had a really high rainy season this year where it rained and rained and rained. And so the roads were not good for work, but right now it's getting better. Supply chains coming in a little more rapidly. But I would say if you would like to go over with a group of people and work on a project, we would just have to work on that and see what it is, what you're interested in, what people want to do. It just has to be something that we're very focused on. And I have to arrange it with either the school or the hospital or whatever. So we can talk of this. If you have people that are interested, then we can come together and figure something out.
Yeah. So how do people get in contact with you or Engage Now Africa? What's the best way?
So we have a website,
Mm-hmm.
engagenowafrica.org. It's on there. My contact information is there as well. It's Diana at engagenowafrica.org. They can contact me. I always love to hear from people that are interested in what we're doing. And it's wonderful. It's great. We have several projects that are waiting to be finished this year, yours being one of them. So once it's up and done, we can go over there. Maybe we can furnish a maternal center with equipment. Maybe we can work at the maternal centers, training, working side by side nurses and doctors there. There's lots of possibilities.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to go personally.
Would you?
So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay. Well, we can talk and share ideas, and probably, and I'm going back in January, but that would be for another reason. But if you'd like to go and actually do something, if you'd like to go do a site visit to see what our projects are, I'm more than happy to bring you over, share that with you. I'll be going over in January for a week. I'm going back over in April. And April might be a time where we could do an expedition, depending on what you wanted to do. But let's just talk. We can just talk offline and see what you're interested in and what you would like to do. And if your family would like to come over, and we could host you and show you what we have going on. And yeah, I'd love to have Sunrider be a part of Engage Now Africa.
Yeah.
I love that. So we're just grateful to you for wanting to help out with this maternal center, and the impact is going to be huge. I mean, I can't even express to you enough how much this is going to impact the women in these surrounding villages. So
wow,
it's great. Well, it's fabulous. So
thank you for coming on and sharing your passion. Clearly, this is a labor of love for you. And I don't know, I love hearing things that people are passionate about. It's very inspirational. So it is engagenowafrica.org, and go and check them out. There are some amazing projects on there, and you've done great things, and we're excited to be working with you. So all right, thank you. Thank you for your time. All right, thank you. All right, I'll see you. Bye.
Okay, bye.